Hello everyone, just want to give you a quick recap on the chapter 11 on Windows versions and customer service. Just want to kind of point out some of the highlights of the chapter. So first off, in the intro, what I've been seeing over the course of the years is a lot of people don't quite understand how to create files and folders in the operating system, which is actually quite important when it comes down to it. So if you're not familiar with it, I'd suggest you doing some more research on that. On the A+ certification exam for CompTIA, yes, they're going to have a couple questions that may pertain to other operating systems other than Windows 10. Now, realistically, the majority of the businesses are up and running on Windows 10, as well as Microsoft is also phasing away support for the what we call legacy operating systems of 7 and 8. All right, the Windows interface, I think everyone's kind of familiar with the interfaces. So here, this particular page kind of highlights some of the features and functions of the OS interface. A term that everyone should be familiar with is called GUI, right? GUI, Graphical User Interface, and that's simply meaning that the interface that we're interacting with is graphics driven versus just typing in characters or words. Windows Desktop, again, I think everyone should be familiar with the desktop in terms of what exists and their names, such as the start bar, the search box, the task manager, and all those items there. Now, another important thing here in this figure 11-4 is how to get to the system window to identify various system resources, information. So when you're trying to troubleshoot something, you know exactly what version it is and what edition of the OS we're working with. A couple of quick little side notes here. This bullet point here, Windows, PowerShell, and PowerShell Admin. Now these have been added not recently in the Windows operating system, but this is just more advanced tools that you would utilize via command line. So as we go through the course, we'll be learning various commands and typing in and manipulating the operating system that way. All right, everything else I think everyone should be fairly familiar with that part. Windows editions. Now, this section makes a big deal in terms of which editions to select. Put it this way, bottom line, as of this time frame, Windows 10 is the operating system. Some individual/businesses may choose earlier or legacy operating systems because of a certain application or hardware requirements or restrictions. Now, when you look at the editions, Windows 10 typically has a multitude of different editions, from Windows Home, Windows Pro, Windows Enterprise, Windows 10 Education. So there's many different flavors of it. Typically, bottom line, majority of it is going to be Windows 10 Home, obviously for the home user, and Windows 10 Pro for the business environment. Now, down below here are kind of quick highlights of the differences between a Pro version and a home version and what basically it entails. The biggest thing is the ability to access a domain. Now, if you don't know what a domain is, we'll be talking about that later on in the course. All right, so this particular section gets into the different tools for users and for techs. So a lot of this stuff we'll get into more greater detail as we further explore the operating system and how to troubleshoot various aspects of it. I think everyone needs to be familiar with Windows File Explorer or Windows Explorer. And that's where we're able to see the location of files, the current status of the folders, etc. And here's a couple of screenshots of the differences between a Windows 7 and Windows 10. And again, here is the files and directories. Now this is something that one should absolutely need to know, how files are organized on a Windows machine. So when it comes down to troubleshooting, you need to locate various information on the drive. Our control panel is going to be another big one, where this is where you'll find the vast majority of the utilities and tools to manage the Windows environment, as well as the different resources. So this is your classic view of the control panel. You're able to select the options to view the icons in a different configuration. And again, these are going to be the different, that we refer to them as applets, of modifying and changing various settings through there. And here we have, again, Windows File Explorer and the various options. So one of the critical things with this is, by default, Windows tends to hide protected operating system files. Now that is critical because over the course of the years, individuals tend to delete files and not knowing that they are critical system files. So with the operating system, Windows basically blocks out any kind of errors that a user may occur inadvertently by deleting specific files. Now this exam tip over here, know how to view hidden files and extensions. This I would go through and work this exercise out to find where the resources are to view hidden files and folders. Power options. Now this is kind of unique because it really depends if we're using a desktop or a laptop. So these settings here could be applicable. Also, if you have a UPS, uninterruptible power supply, basically a battery backup. So generally with laptops, when you close the lid, generally the system will go into what they call sleep mode. So the information that's stored in RAM will remain there. But if the battery goes out, everything that was in RAM basically goes away, and you've lost stuff and or possibly corrupted some files. So there's also different settings within the power settings to go in sleep mode, meaning that we have the hard drive that powers down as well as the display powering down. In addition to that, we also have screen savers that would also be invoked. All right, one important aspect here is the system window. Need to know how to get there so you actually know what version of operating system you have and the status of the activation. Again, this all comes down to when you're troubleshooting a system. Now this is an interesting utility here. If you click on Start, Run, and type in MSInfo32, right, you get basically another screen that gives you a lot more detail in one area. So this basically you'll see the software and hardware components as well as various configuration files. So let's take a look to see how it looks on a Windows machine. So I type in the search MSInfo, and I don't have to spell it all the way out because it just pops up right here. And as you can see, we have the system summary, system information, and we have the three main categories with the hardware resources, the components, and the various software environments as well. So under hardware, actually system summary, this will give you a quick idea in terms of what version or edition of operating system, followed by the version, and then other information pertaining to like the make and model of the system that the operating system is running on. In addition to that, we have some other information pertaining to the BIOS settings, and then we have specific information about the various hardware resources associated with that. All right, next item here is the Windows 10 Settings app. So if we look at, again, Windows environment, if we click on the Start, here we have the little gear. This gets us to the Windows settings. Now, not to get confused what we talked about earlier on Control Panel, because if I type in Control Panel, that brings up yet another area where we're able to make modifications and changes to the system. Here in Control Panel, this views items by the main headings. What I like doing is coming over here and viewing small icons, so I'm able to see all the different resources that I'm able to get to real quickly. Now, some of them kind of overlap on the Windows settings, but overall, I mean, there's going to be two areas to go into, so they're not the same thing. They're kind of similar in a way, but just to keep that in mind. All right, and that will be it for this particular section.